Okay, this video is part 2 of quotes about Frank Smith, the educator. He's the Harvard guy, new education expert who writes a lot of stuff about how to improve education for especially young people, junior high, high school, college age. And he says, the smokescreen of excellence. The worse the situation gets in schools, the more the word excellence is used. And that is true. For example, I went to a place and they had a Hispanic Center for Excellence. And it's such a crock of BS. They don't want me to speak to the students. They want a bunch of mediocre students, guys who barely, finished med school on academic probation, because they always want to say the students are doing poorly, we need to apply for more grants, we need more money, racism and all this other bullshit. And, they got somebody like me. I'm like smartest Hispanic doctor in the whole world. They won't let me speak, okay? They don't like somebody like me coming in because then they think I make them look bad, and if the students do better, then they won't be able to apply for grant money. No one really cares about minorities. All this stuff about diversity and all this stuff is because it's big money pushes it down below because they hate white Christians and they want to get rid of white Christians. So anything they can do to block them out, they want. But they actually don't really care about the minorities. That's an important point. They like minorities that are easy to control because they can control them. They can put them in a position and just use them like a puppet and control them. They do not like smart minorities like me. Like I said, I wrote to over 100 minority organizations. Not a single one was interested in having anything to do with me. Okay, and even my own place that knows me, that I was first in my class, 99% boards, they don't want anything to do with me. Okay, they don't want you to help the students. There was one black dean, William Wallace, and he was great. He wanted me to teach. He had me teaching in the urban health program, and I wanted to. I do it for free. This is all for free, But he was like the exception to the rule because he really cared. He was good to everybody, that guy. That guy was great. Anyways, let's continue with these quotes. But yeah, that is a major pitfall. Whenever somebody says, we're dedicated to excellence, usually it means they're a piece of crap and they're a liar and whatever they're doing sucks, okay? The difference between writers and people who don't write is that writers write. Yeah, you don't have to be a big scholar to write. You simply just write like you talk, but you got to have something to say. A great way to write an essay is to go have a conversation with a person about the thing, and as soon as you're done with the conversation, run and sit down and write everything you told them, okay? Okay, he says, students who like to write all mentioned that they were inspired by a person. They mentioned a teacher. They were influenced by somebody who was already a member of the Writers Club. I don't think I was that way. I was inspired by reading good books. I never had a teacher that could write well. Not one. Anyways, influential individuals demonstrated that certain things are worth doing. Yeah, people set an example. When I read some books that I thought were great, I'm like, wow, I want to write a book. I was inspired to write because I also saw my dad and my uncles all talking about books. And to me, the idea of being a writer was a great honor, that you could someday be the person writing the book that other people talked about. That, to me, was very high in the respect mode. Like, that'd be like a great achievement. Like, I injured my shoulder and I told my dad I wanted to take off a year from high school so I could come back and, be at my physical best to wrestle. And he's like, wrestling's not important, your education's more important. What I'm trying to say is, to my dad, getting a good education was far more important than wrestling, whereas to me as a kid, wrestling was more important than school. Anyways, he says you learn best when it's like a club atmosphere. There's no coercion, no pressure, there's no grades, mixed ages of people in the group. He says when you have grades, it puts the children and the teachers into a conflict. They're judging you. It's better to have like a coach who just wants you to do well, like your parents want you to do well. Okay, normal speed for talking and for listening to speech and for reading is about 200 words per minute, but you can read faster. Thought flows in terms of stories about events, about people, about intentions. The best teachers are the best storytellers. I know also, as soon as I learn something interesting, I want to pick up the phone and talk to somebody about it, okay? Like, if I learn something good, I want to call one of my doctor buddies. I mostly talk to doctors. Call one of my doctor buddies and discuss it with them, because then I know I'm doing it, to help them, to show off my new idea, but also because I know from experience, as soon as I have that conversation, I'm 100 times more likely to remember that long term. Because I've done that. For many years, I ran all kinds of teaching conferences where I'm lecturing to all the other doctors and stuff, and I just know from experience it was great for me. It would motivate me, energize me to give a long, complex talk, and then I would remember it better, and I'd look up all sorts of things, and it just helped me a lot academically. Like, I wanted to be a great neuroradiologist, amongst other things, and running neuroradiology conferences for like 20 years made me a lot better at it, because then you get to see all the good cases. Okay, continuing with Frank Smith. Scientists, like all of us, need special stories for the things they do. They call them theories. They don't want a list of experiments and outcomes. They don't want massive compilations of data. All of this could overwhelm them. They want a compact summary. They want a theory. Yeah, theories of disease are the most important thing, because they tell you what causes the disease. And when you know what causes the disease, then you know what to do, how to avoid the thing. And I can tell you, the causes of disease and theories of disease are almost never taught in conventional medicine. Very little. Only the most bare minimum is taught. Because if you don't know what causes it, then you got to give a drug or try a surgery. Okay. He says but what I'm trying to say is that people who are really doing the heavy lifting, the what really saves other people, is the ones who figure out those disease theories. That's where it's really at. Okay, figuring out what causes this disease, what is the mechanism by which it causes disease. Therefore, these are the steps in the sequence of events that lead to the disease. So if we intervene anywhere along the sequence, we got a chance to prevent this disease or cure this disease. Okay, Frank Smith continues. All learning pivots on who we think we are and who we see ourselves capable of becoming. Yeah, right now, like I said, my goal is, to be the Aristotle of the generation, to summarize the great things from history, to be the best doctor in the world, which I think I am based on the knowledge of the most ability to cure people. And that energizes me, and I see myself capable of becoming that. My brother, who's a world champion athlete, tells me that I'm a wussy and I should start competing in sports again. And I'm like, no, I just with all my injuries and my age, I don't believe I'm capable of doing that much, and I'm not doing anything better than what I'm doing now. So because I don't believe it, there's no chance I'm ever going to do it. You have to believe you could do it. And when you work with the young students, a lot of them have had their confidence so deteriorated by getting some poor grades that they just don't believe they could ever become a great student in math or science or something, so they won't try. Even though if they improve their study skills, they could have a massive improvement. They don't believe that, so they don't ever make the effort, so they don't do it. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. What people really should do is say, I'll just go for it for 1 year and see what happens. Okay, you have to take a chance if you want to make a real improvement. Frank Smith continues, if only we could encourage students to read more, it would take care of many of their problems in school. Yeah, the vast majority of people are functional illiterates. If you simply make it a habit to read, you will keep learning a lot of stuff. You have to have goals, though, because your reading should be focused around a goal. Okay, and if you don't know what to read quote books like this quote book here, The Holy Grail Wisdom Quotes by Meet P. Rogers, and then keep an information file on all the quotes that you like, because that's how you remember the great authors, the great philosophers, people that are important from a historical point of view, and that'll stick with you. And so you can develop this historical knowledge base, you become an educated, well-informed person. But every time I have a problem in life, I go to the books to figure out how to deal with it as best I can. And, obviously talking to a person who's the expert, that's very helpful, and even better if you can find one, but a lot of times you can't. You go online, you read the videos, and you start reading books. The other thing is, everybody's got time to read. It's so easy to read books if you just make it a part of your routine. I've already said this before in other lectures, but just briefly. Table in the bathroom, there's 1 book a week. Listen to a audiobook while you're commuting to work. That's 2 books a week. Read a book while you're on a treadmill. I'm reading pretty routinely now 2 books a week on a treadmill. Okay, sometimes 3. And then read a book while you eat dinner. There it is. And you do that every night. It's easy to read another book. That's a minimum of 4 books, really 5 books a week doing that. 5 books a week. If you read 5 books a week, there's 52 weeks in a year, you're going to be reading 260 books a year. You do that every year, your knowledge base just becomes massive compared to an average person. So anyways, I hope you found that helpful.